I talk to a spirit. She comes in my dreams.
What is the path to awakening supposed to look like, to feel like? How do you know if you are on it? We ask these very sacred and sometimes vulnerable questions to many different women from all walks of life. A conversation that needs to be shared and heard. I'm Jo Hendy.
I'm Amanda Parker.
And welcome to the Girl Awakening podcast.
Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning. Good
Happy
morning.
2025.
Oh, wow. Yes. And when this episode goes out, we'll be well into
Yeah.
2025. But it's
closer to March, maybe February, March. Yeah.
yes,
Wow.
but it's exciting to kind of start with our guests today and open up some new spaces and just be back in the seat again.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Absolutely. So to our listeners, this will be your first 2025 podcast. So welcome to 2025. I hope you had a lovely New Year.
Well, yes. I think when this one goes out, you would have listened to a couple of podcasts that actually blow the lid off what this year is about. And you're sitting with us today and going, bring it on, and can't wait for what's next. So here it comes.
Here it comes. So today we have the lovely Ros Banksia-Smith joining us on Girl Awakening, who has so beautifully offered her time from Bali, from the beautiful Bali, although it is wet there at the moment. Ros has built an impressive portfolio featuring luxury residential and leisure property developments, hotels, resorts, beach clubs, and so on. She has quite a list of wonderful things that she has done in her life. But despite her successful career, Ros has faced numerous life challenges, hence why we wanted to hear her story on Girl Awakening, including rape, stage 3 cancer, divorce, office closing due to COVID, verbal and physical violence, and a recent accident that left her with a broken hip and requiring plastic surgery. Through these experiences, Ros has discovered the power of courage and resilience. Oh, my goodness. Ros hopes that by sharing her story, she will inspire others to see that regardless of your circumstances, anything is possible. She believes that we have the power to choose our own path and create the best possible future. Well, Ros, here you are looking gorgeous and healthy and bright. So can't wait to listen to, how you got through those horrific things, those experiences. So welcome to Girl Awakening, Ros.
Yeah, it's really lovely to be here and so exciting to be your first guest for the year. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.
We're going to dive straight in, beautiful, and ask you
how
awakening begin, because I think, we do go many places as we talk, and usually that first question opens everything.
Okay. Well, actually, to be honest, I had a kind of awakening as a child. So I remember we lived on a farming property, and my grandparents' house was at one part of the property, and down a long dirt track was ours, and we were actually closer to the main road, and we weren't allowed to go over the bridge of the main road. But I remember I was really curious about this bridge. My brother and sister were climbing haystacks and all the normal kids things, and I was a bit nerdy maybe, but I decided I would go and actually hang out at the bridge. And so I found myself lying on the grass. Sometimes I would try and walk on top of the fences there and see my balancing, but a lot of the time I lay in the grass, and I became really aware of another dimension, something that we didn't really recognize, and we don't recognize very often. And I became really conscious of energies, and that was happening at an early age. But to be honest, I kind of closed that down because I realized other people don't have that, or I thought they didn't. And in fact, I believe now that we all do. And our intuition is sort of part of that energy field that that we experience, and many of us can identify with that. But so I went kind of in and out. I lived in Bali years ago as well, so I've come back to this island. I feel like it draws you in. It's the most beautiful place to be, and I love being here, but I love the fact that it's central in Asia. It's easy to get to other countries, so it suits me to live here most certainly.
Yeah.
But the people are beautiful. The weather's really wet at the minute, but it's still gorgeous. But what I found was during that time, I went on quite a spiritual journey. And then I got into life. I got back to Australia. We got back into life. I was still married at that point. And you start to just get going. And I think I actually moved away from many parts of my spiritual side. I had a gorgeous academic friend that we used to walk and talk, and we thought we were solving the problems of the world. And that's about as close as I really got. And then in 2018, I had the most spectacular work year. So I was just winning every award, getting recognition in the field. Lots of pretty exciting stuff was happening. And then I started getting really sick. And I had actually thought that was probably to do with, I was feeling like I was going to pass out a lot. And that I thought was to do with the stress related around my marriage. So my work was going well, but in my married life, we were actually wanting to go separate ways, and but we weren't ready to tell anybody, I guess. And I felt really alone and sad a lot of that year, I remember. 2019, I ended up having this profuse bleeding, and it was to the point that it was horrendously scary. And anyway, cut a long story short, I ended up in intensive care. And at the end of that period of intensive care and almost losing my life, I got back home, and I remember thinking what I'm just about to go through, and I wasn't really sure what would open up for me, but I knew it was an incredible time to learn. But something that was really profound was lying in the operating theatre, or just before you go in, they take you to that little room. And I was thinking, okay, if I find out that I'm going to die in a few weeks, would I be happy with my life? And of course I was happy. I adore my children. Yes, I'd had a successful and faithful marriage up until the end of that part, of course. But I was certainly not being honest about where we're up to. I didn't want to tell anybody about that. Then I thought, what would it be that I'm not happy with? And to be honest, it was not being in my truth. Yeah. And that was not being so open about my faith, not following my life in the way that I wanted. And so lying in that bath when I got home from the hospital, and I knew that I had inoperable cancer at that point, and I needed to undergo a huge course of chemotherapy and radiation to be able to get to a point of having surgery. I remember smiling and thinking, okay, if God has put me here, I'm going to learn. I don't want to miss a thing. So I made a decision to journal, and that's how my book Courage came about. And that whole period of going through the cancer, and in fact, that first few months that led to the book Courage that I've written, but then beyond that, the stories that have unfolded since in my life, the whole lot has been spiritual. And that, to be honest, is my awakening. Probably why I'm really comfortable to now speak to you.
Yeah, wow, that's massive. What you said about how you didn't want to tell anybody about what you were going through. Why do you think that was?
Oh, definitely. I did a lot of assessing on that, and a big component of it was I come from a traditional farming family. There was a big expectation on being the perfect wife, living the perfect life. And I was actually modeling, I think, a lot of the behaviors, which are not bad, but the behaviors that my family kind of set, the culture set. And so it felt like I would be failing to talk about these things. I was in a situation where, and there was no violence at all in our home, definitely not, but there was a lot of control in terms of finances. So I had my access and proper attention to my own finances was taken away. Everything had to be approved, and I really allowed that. So it was a financial and emotional coercion, and it was it's a little bit weird for me to talk about it even now, but it was where I didn't really question it because I thought it was an expectation placed upon me to be a successful wife, when in fact that was not the case. And I should have been speaking up and saying, look, I'm not comfortable about this. We need to be getting our own accounts. We need to talk more about the finances. I just kept being subordinate, and I made that choice.
It's such a powerful, that's the reason why I asked that question, because I think it's such a powerful place for women to start, like even just questioning, because we're really unaware of it. And part of it is part of the programming and part of the patterning of being a wife or being a mother or, being these labels is the expectation, and how we hold ourselves into this high level of expectation that's we miss the point. We kind of give ourselves away in that. That's, so it's beautiful hearing you say that you actually realized that you didn't actually speak up or even.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also the other side was because I was really empathetic, and I've found that my empathy in the long run was probably detrimental to the degree that I had it, because it meant that I always looked, and I have done this many times. So now this is something I've been working on, most definitely. But it is where in lots of situations I've actually agreed to things, even though I did not necessarily feel comfortable with that, out of loyalty, out of understanding where that person's coming from, thinking I'm the one who's stronger. I care less about finances, so I can handle this. I don't care about these things, when in fact I actually did. So I came to recognize that I wasn't honoring myself, and I was using the empathy, but it's like, why would that empathy be causing me not to be really honest about my own needs? And in fact, that's been the deeper question, I guess.
That's a very big question on that path to the truth and honoring self and being in your own sovereignty, isn't it? Without losing the ability to be empathetic in ways that serve you best. Because that's also the pendulum swing, isn't it? To kind of come to the opposite side of things and that self-defense mode and coming back into protecting yourself when you've been in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I think a lot of that came from a self-esteem and from not feeling good enough. And it's that can develop from childhood, really. And so those emotions actually start forming inside ourselves, I guess. And so I was raped at 17. And I wanted to disappear. I wanted my body to disappear. I didn't want to look attractive to anybody after that. So you can imagine. It was a date rape. So I also didn't get help because I felt 100% guilty for getting myself in that situation. So I then became this huge version of myself. So I ate myself into, I actually became more noticeable maybe because I became so overweight. But that was purely from low self-esteem. And it was almost like cementing these things happen. And so I even think if we're trying to do too many things, or if I was trying to do too many things and look like I was perfect, I was trying to create this perfection instead of learning to love myself, learning to recognize, actually, I did these things because of who I am. They are not who I am. I did them because of who I am. And once I could recognize that, then that became the catalyst for helping me move through things.
Well, that's just the degree of how powerful you are as a soul or as a being. We go through these experiences because we can. We where the level of our being and the power of who we really are can step up and take and walk through these things that are happening to us. So that's
absolutely.
The layers and layers and layers of experiences that you popped on top of, each thing to not delve into it and experience it, but you did. It's like, let's give her something else, and then let's give her something else. Let's give her this and see if she can handle it. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because they say that the universe just keeps throwing you things, and I must be a really slow learner or something because I've had a lot. But I actually think I remember I was speaking at an event after I had the cancer, and I knew that the cancer was back. So I'd released my book, my book Courage, and I was all excited because it was the first official introduction of the book. It was at a sold-out event in Brisbane, and I actually said to the people that I was speaking to, I'm actually going to have to finish the talk differently because the cancer came back. And I remember when the host or the MC was introducing me, she started to cry, but she knew what was going on behind the scenes. So I had gone from getting through cancer, writing the book, bringing the book out, the first event, to find out the cancer had returned. And the Tuesday after the event, I was actually going to have to go into reconstruction surgery. So I had a stoma bag attached, and so it was quite a big deal. I was also had made the decision that I wanted to be free of the marriage because I felt like part of my healing was to be really honest about where we both were up to at that time. And so I needed to have my freedom and my truth in order to be able to heal. So at the end of the talk, I went through the normal talk that I was expecting to do. And then at the very end, I said, we can't really guarantee what life's going to bring up, what it will bring to us. But what I can say is whatever it is, it's how we navigate through it that actually says a lot about our character and who we are as a person. And so then I said to the crowd, and next Tuesday, I'm going in a total reconstruction surgery. And they were like all in shock, I remember. And there were people crying in the audience. But to me, it was
the title
really
act, Ros, courage, because it takes a lot of courage to stand, there and share your truth with people, the joy of releasing your book and what that journey in itself signified, and then also another new journey about to begin.
I think so, but really for me, it was also about my own healing. Because when I get to speak or share with people, it reminds me. So I even read pieces out of my own book to myself sometimes because I feel like I need a reminder. But it is actually a reminder that we can make a difference, that we do need to remember that little piece of advice. And so I was happy to share that.
Amazing. So this is all happening, and then did COVID hit around this same time, or was this a little bit after that?
So I actually had reconstruction surgery, and it was. I'll just tell you one story. This is really beautiful. It does make me cry sometimes, so hopefully I won't cry. But my family estranged, not my Smith side, but my married family, all estranged from me, and because of separating from my partner or my husband at the time. And so that was actually quite isolating when you're about to go in for surgery. Wow. And my sister, who was going to help look after me, because it was an 8 to 12 week recovery at home from this rather huge surgery, she became sick herself. And so we had the terrible time. We were both in hospital at the same time. But her sons, my godsons, one at a time took a turn and said, "Honey Ros, I'm coming to look after you." And it was just so beautiful. And so love always appears, right?
Yeah. Love it.
And we went through where these boys got really good at making soup.
Oh,
And I was of no use to them, so they had to do it themselves. One by Google, one brought a girlfriend, and another one played me music in the evenings. It was just beautiful.
yeah.
But all of these things actually happened to you. And then I was on my own a lot after that. So when I was well enough, I was on my own, but I would see people, and then COVID hit. So it was very isolating, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So here I am trying to deal with a stoma bag. I was also at the time on my own a lot, trying to do meals and everything. And then COVID hit and I was alone. And it was a really stressful period. I lost a lot of my hair at that point. So I refused to have it shaved off. So my hairdresser helped me just throw it up enough that I could cover a fair bit of the baldness.
Yeah, it's quite confronting, isn't it, Gorgeous? I mean, because it's my mother went through the journey as well with a stoma bag, and it's not an easy task to reconnect with yourself in that way and to do it all on your own. Like, you know,
Yeah. It actually,
on your
yeah,
own is incredibly challenging.
having a stoma bag was really confronting, I have to say. And at the moment, I have complications that were caused from the radiation. And one of the or two of the surgeons and specialists I've spoken to think I need a stoma bag again, but I'm not going down an alternative path for healing because I really didn't like having it. But there were lots of reasons it was difficult for me to manage. I ended up with malnutrition with mine because I was having a lot of trouble managing my diet and everything. But I also felt really confronted about my femininity. So it was where you've got this, it's a poo bag, basically, on the front of your body, and you've got to be attaching it. And, I found that it was really difficult to navigate and to get used to and to feel as feminine and beautiful as you should. And I was going through a big period of dealing with my self-belief and self-worth. And I remember looking in the mirror one day and thinking, like, who am I? Because I originally had developed all these hats. I was a mother, I was a wife, I was a designer. And then all of a sudden, I'm this person with a poo bag on me. Like, what the hell? And so it was really hard. And I remember this particular day looking in the mirror and thinking, oh my God, I just am. I am an individual and I'm a unique human being. And I'm actually part of the universal collective of people and community, but I'm an individual within that. And then when that gave me this incredible sense of belonging.
That's so beautiful, Ros, because I think there's nothing more humanizing than these experiences with our bodies, but then to actually realize how incredible our bodies are, that they can still function with all these things, that's so different. And reacquaint ourselves with, as you say, this new role, this new identity, this new hat that comes in, and to love that.
Yeah, which has taken a lot of layers to get there, I have to say. I will share one story, though. I was actually at a point when I was allergic to chemo. So I have a syndrome, which is why I'm having trouble now, because my body reacts more to things than it should. And I was allergic to chemotherapy, so I end up back in intensive care, back in acute care for many weeks. And I had literally burns inside and outside my body. I'd lost my ability to walk, so I was in a wheelchair. I'd have to pick a glass up. I'll just show you. It was like this, was how I would pick up a glass because I couldn't use my hands properly. Pain was horrendous. And when it was kind of over, so I would have to go to the bathroom 60 times a day minimum, like they were counting them, and it just went on for weeks, like the pain you can begin to imagine. And at the end, the head nurse came and she said, we want to know, how did you not scream? They said they'd nursed only one other person who had this reaction, and her screams were haunting them to that day. And they said, we just don't know how you didn't do it. And so I've actually shared this in the book. But what I did was I can feel the pain, you experience the pain, and yet you move your mind into a higher place. You move your mind in where you say, this is just something that's happening to me at the moment. And if I stay focused on the end goal, which is the healing, then I will be okay. And I remember when it first started, I'd actually prayed because I'd had to ask everyone to go. I couldn't have my husband there or anybody because it was just, I had to concentrate the whole way, keep myself in a mindset where I didn't scream, I guess, and where I didn't disappear inside the pain, because that's the easiest thing. And I remember God had actually said, so I call it God, people may use other names, but God had spoken to me and said, just because I'm saying, how can I do this? I just like, why is this happening to me? And so God had spoken really clearly and said, just concentrate on the vision. I will show you where you go next. And so I had a vision of things that I was to do, which I am now living out. But it was really incredible because I could focus on that. I can feel the pain. It's almost as if I'm looking at my body from outside. And I think that would be my advice to anybody. If you are dealing with really difficult things, don't disappear inside the pain. You are better than that. And you can actually lift yourself into a place where you can move yourself through this. And it's just something that's happening in time. And it doesn't matter what it is, you can actually recover and get back into life and be living the life you want if you choose.
Powerful advice, especially when it comes to pain, because pain is such a tricky thing because it can take you over and you can get lost in there. But that powerful side of you, your beautiful beingness, the part of you.
But pain, sorry, I was just going to say pain takes a lot of forms.
Yeah.
So it can be physical pain, it can be emotional pain. So what financial pain, it's whatever we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's impermanent. That's the word. It's this thing where it's, a yogi once said in a class of mine, which I've taken on with, breathe, this too shall pass. And it's like having the faith that your bigger picture is there and it's strong and you're moving towards it. And you just need to take the breath and just, breathe through it.
But what you're sharing as well is that how you handled that can apply to, as you say, many forms, emotional, mental, physical. But, through childbirth, prisoners of war have described similar things and, and torture and things like that, that out of body almost, like you're present in your body, but you're also out of body because you're handling a different place and space. It's not handling you.
Exactly. I think too, I remember at the point, because I was allergic to the chemo, I'll share this story because it might help people, was they had actually said to me, because you are allergic to chemotherapy, we can't really guarantee that we can heal you. So I was told to go away and get things in order, expect the worst, basically. And I remember at the time, it really felt like I'd like to punch the guy, but that's inappropriate. And I also decided I wouldn't cry. I'm not sure how I didn't cry because I'm quite a crybaby, but I didn't cry, I just listened through. When he had finished speaking, I said to him, I actually don't belong in your room anyway. I don't belong out there, because I could tell that people sitting in that room had made a decision to die.
Yeah.
And there's a determination that you have. And something that was really important to me when I got home was to recognize this. I'm not a statistic. I'm not having to do everything that somebody says I have to do. And actually, to be honest, my ex-husband and my children were very upset with me by this choice because they really felt like I wasn't listening to medical help. But I thought I just need to go really deep. And I need, this is between God and I. And to be honest, we did get through the cancer, and then of course it came back. But the reality is, every time something's happening to us, we have to listen to our bodies. And I would probably make different decisions now to what I did back then in terms of what I would do to deal with the cancer. And I definitely believe in miracles, but I think we also, part of the miracles of creativity are things like our medical fashion and the devices, the MRI machines and all the other things are part of our miracles. So we shouldn't be ignorant to what we need to do, but we're not a statistic. And if someone tells you you're going to die and you don't feel in your heart that that's you, you can move your way through that. And my turn will be later, obviously.
I hear what you're saying 100%, and I feel it's a very powerful moment for people to absorb in any situation in life, but particularly in this cancer journey, is to recognize how powerful our relationship with spirit is in the journey of how we balance the healing path.
Yeah.
Choices we make along the way, and when you said you're not a part of those people in the room, not a statistic, I think that also is like what you're sharing and why you're choosing to share your story is an incredible empowerment for people to take on, because I've been in that space with my mother, and there's so many lonely people in those rooms who don't have access to knowledge outside of what that pathway, that singular pathway is. And as you say, that there it's a narrow road, and on that it's finite. So I really applaud you for speaking around this, because I feel this is very powerful and important for people to hear that connection with spirit and intuition and God, whatever they choose to call, is a very powerful dynamic in the healing journey alone, because I know that where you put your thoughts is where you go.
It's mindset and focus, most definitely. So I think regardless of what it is you want to achieve in your life, you can definitely do it, but you have to take steps, and you can't just think I'd like to do something, then it's a wish. You actually have to make it a plan. So you've got to focus. You need to decide where you want to go and focus, and then start to make that happen. So that's how I kind of ended up overseas, to be honest, because I was sitting there post-COVID. So COVID, we were then able to move around a little bit. Remember, at first we were all locked down, and it was very isolating and scary. And then we were able to. What was that?
We were in Queensland. We didn't really have that. We were locked down for, I think, about a month. Not even that. 2 weeks or something. Yeah. Were you in Victoria?
Oh my goodness.
New South Wales?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about in Queensland initially.
Okay.
So at first we were locked away, but partly that might have seemed exaggerated to me because of the fact that I was dealing with the cancer, and so I had a different type of lockdown. Maybe
hospitals, it was a different scenario. Medical systems, it was very
intense. My immune system was really compromised at the time, so I was on a very restricted access to people. So, but I was sitting in my now home office because I had to close the office, of course, because of COVID. And so I'd kept everything going until then, surprisingly, and then had to close. And so I was sitting in my lounge room that had become the studio, and had a PA beside me, and other staff members were in their homes. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I've got through all of this and I've just let my life be the same. And so I'd still set up the same systems. I was still living the same, perfect interior designer life. Not that that's not great. I had a great life, but I wanted to make changes. And so I thought, what will I do? So I decided to contact my travel agent, and I said, I want to go around the world. I'll take 3 months, a month for each year I was ill. And I'm going to go on a pilgrimage and meet the people that had been supporting me. So I was fairly public with my cancer journey. And I met a lot of people who gave me support, or I supported them, and in different ways. Some people came to me to see if I could help their friends or their family, for example, who were dealing with cancer. I didn't want to be known as the cancer lady. But I'm telling you this story just because of what it took to actually change my life. So I took this 3-month trip, got back to Australia, was asked to do a resort in New Zealand, and it was on the way home that it really dawned on me, sitting in the plane coming back to Australia, that I realised I'm coming home, but this is no longer my home, or at the moment, this is not my home. Excuse me. And so I made a decision to move, and within 6 weeks, I think it was, I'd actually packed everything up and took off to Bali. And I found my property here within 2 weeks. So I kept following my intuitive guidance. And some people were saying, oh my God, this is crazy. But to me, it was important. I knew that I wanted to base in Asia. I knew that I wanted to buy a home. I wanted a place with a swimming pool. I wanted a place I could call my own. And I knew that I needed to set foundation. And that has happened since I got here.
I just listening to your story, and I see so many like red lights, and it's mainly around decisions that you've made, and the certainty in your decision literally impacts where the next step takes you. And that's something for me personally that I've learned over my life too, you know, in the awakening journey, is when we're so certain in our decision making, the universe just opens up for you, you know, but it's all about the certainty in the decision. And just listening to your story, it's like every strong decision that you've made, the universe is like opened up like a beautiful flower for you, and like, yeah, let's keep going, you know. And then moving to Bali, then what's the next decision? You know, it's like the universe is always waiting for us to stand somewhere. So then it knows the direction you want to move in there.
Yeah, it does. I remember when I had made the decision to divorce from my husband, I decided I would like to hyphenate my name because my surname is Smith, and although I'm proud of it, I felt like it could add a bit of hyphenation.
Yeah.
So I had actually thought about using my married name and my maiden name together originally, but my ex-husband was really against that idea. So it was almost like a celebration of being independent. So I'm going to get a hyphenated name. And friends were actually trying to help me find a name. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, those names I'd be way too embarrassed to say. And then I was sitting on the beach at the Gold Coast meditating one morning, and the name Banksia came into my mind. And I thought, wow, that sounds pretty good with Smith. And then I thought, gosh, it's an Australian wildflower that survives in harsh conditions. That is so me. So I get upstairs, and so I lived in a high rise at the time, and I get up to my building and I look up the meaning, and its Indigenous meaning means rebirth and new beginnings. So instead of getting a tattoo, I got a name. I made my name legally Banksia-Smith. It was in the middle of divorce proceedings, so if anybody else is wanting to do it, wait till after the divorce. It's much easier.
So cool.
Yeah, but right now, every time I get nervous, every time I think, oh, can I do this? There's things that I'm embarking on now, and I think, can I do this? If I write my name, if I see my name in print, Banksia-Smith. Oh, that's right. It's my commitment to rebirth and new beginnings. So it's like that's a life decision that I made.
Absolutely.
Every time I've actually said your name, I haven't questioned it, but I've felt there's something around it, because it just feels like there's an energy there, and it's as you say, with a hyphenated name, you the casual thought is it, you know, marriage, or, you know,
so now you know it's symbolic.
And it's a beautiful, and the Australian bushflower essences, it's a very powerful essence. So I love how these things come in and just become like a totem, if you like, for moving forward in life. I
knew without doubt, though, that I will live in different places, I'm sure more than Bali, and I just want to have a piece of Australia with me all the time.
Oh, I love that. Yes, I love that.
That's divine.
That's so beautiful. Yeah.
And I think also like symbolic of how you've chosen to move into your own truth and your own sovereignty by creating a name that works for you, or like serves you.
Yeah, it seemed like a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I think
And people always get a bit surprised when they hear. I remember my brother saying that's eccentric to do that,
yes,
but I felt like it was me, whether it's eccentric or not.
yeah.
Keep doing that. Keep doing more of that.
Yeah.
It's so funny too, because I know a lot of I remember when I was getting married a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, but a little while ago, and I had a friend say to me, when you get married, if you take the name, it changes your numbers numerologically. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, wow, okay. So I actually kept my name for a long time, until I had kids, and then it was time to look at different ways. But hearing you say that too, it'd be interesting to see what your numbers are now and how they impact your life now, with your new.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I'm actually in a really different place. So, and I think even when I moved to Bali, I still wasn't in that place.
Yeah.
It took a lot more things opening up for me. I felt like it was the beginning, and it's a reminder to continue because we're always on this journey of discovery, and we'll always be tapping into the layers. But I think for me, to really recognize the importance of self-love and self-care has become really significant. And I think we can't be in our most creative selves unless we are actually caring about ourselves. Because if you just keep giving to other people, then there's nothing left. And if you find yourself dying and you have done that because you didn't care about yourself enough, and you've neglected your health, which I did. Incidentally, I must say, I want to really get this word out. I had actually used the tests for bowel cancer that are given out by the government 8 months prior to me being diagnosed. And they said that the tumor was so large, I would have had it for 3 years minimum prior. So please go and have colonoscopies. That's like the other part of my message.
Yeah.
Though,
No,
but I think when something is not right, you have to make sure you address that and you look after yourself without doubt.
and like you said, there's so many layers to that too. It's not just going to a hospital and handing over your body or your your autonomy to somebody else. It's like there's layers of all of that, and that's you're saying.
Yeah. And I think we have to be proactive in our own care and our own lives.
Yeah.
And it's so easy not to be, I think. I'd love to tell you this other story. It's really cool. And it's actually about creativity, but it's about getting in touch with our intuitive selves. That do we recognize what it is? So we have to be really in tune to be conscious. So a long time ago, I was actually told by a friend who has a national company, Ros, I'd really love you to step up and start getting recognized for your work and get it published. My work is now published, but at the time it wasn't. And I had come back from Bali. So I'd been living over here years ago now. And I had ended up, I felt at the time unhappy a lot. I felt like I'd left my spiritual side. And I soon got to discover that you could actually have a spiritual side regardless of where you are. It's not about living in a location, it's about who you are as a person, right? But I had put down a whole lot of things that I'd wanted to achieve. I cut them out, put them into a little book, into this sketchbook, then closed the sketchbook. One of the things was a particular location in Sydney, which I thought I would love one day to have a lunch at this location. It's on the harbour. It was really beautiful. So I get invited to have lunch with this editor of a major magazine. And I'm sitting there and I look across and I realize, oh my goodness, I'm sitting at the location. But before I went, I thought I really want to make an impact at this meeting. And it wasn't about my work being recognized because my work is about my clients. So my work is about me being able to bring their vision and their dream and creating a space that's important for them. So whether it was published in a magazine or not was actually irrelevant. I thought, I'm sitting in front of an editor. I'm going to be able to do something really incredible because it's such a well-known magazine, in getting a message across about how we deal with creativity, how we actually become more creative beings. And so I prayed on it, and I got the quote, through communication and creativity, the footprint of design will be expanded beyond possibility. So I'm like, oh my God, thank you, God. That's so amazing. So I go off to the meeting, and of course, it was not the place that I was meant to deliver that message. I then get asked to speak and represent the interior design community. The Design Institute of Australia asked me to represent interior design at a university forum. So it was an open speaking. There were 4 guests, myself. There was a architect who I hugely admire, Barry Lee. He was speaking, representing architecture. And there were 2 other disciplines as well. And they were asking us questions. And then at the very end, they asked us, what are we most excited about the future of design and in our country? And people are saying all sorts of things. I was the last speaker, and I said, through creativity, through communication and creativity, the footprint of design will be expanded beyond possibility. And then I explained it, the importance of us having a sixth sense, communicating with each other, of a space within a space, of the importance and the relevance of where we're designing and who we're designing for and the people we're designing for. So I went through the whole spiel.
Did you get a
And
certification?
in an academic forum, so it was really out there. And I got off this stage and people were like, that's fantastic. You've changed my thought about design and architecture. So there were academics, other designers and architects, and other people. The MC tapped me on the shoulder and he said, Ros, they've gone now, but they wanted me to tell you that the creative committee for the Commonwealth Games was sitting in the audience, and you have just changed the direction. They convened a quick meeting and you've changed the direction of the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games. So, of course, I get to the Commonwealth Games and I start to cry. No one has any idea. And it doesn't matter at all about that. But it was that, what is it that we're meant to deliver? When we hear a message, how are we meant to how are we meant to live it? Now, that same message has come back to me again now about work that I'm about to do. So I'm working on a body of work related to creativity and how I can open that up in not only myself, but in other people. And I realized that that verse, that quote that it was beautifully downloaded through me years ago was, yes, maybe to influence the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games, who knows? But it's more about how I can use that as the foundation for work that I'm meant to be doing. And it's taken me until now to get to that point. So we have many, many layers that we have to uncover.
And it's actually quite a big, I mean, you created a footprint with the Commonwealth Games with that beautiful channeled download that came through for you. But it's a massive, I'll say, statement, undertaking, mission in itself. Kind of it bears understanding that it's taken a little bit of a process for it to then find a place in what you're going to continue to do. It's a big statement.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The meant to be statement. It just carries so much feeling in it when you say it.
Yeah. And definitely a lot more than just about the interior design or architecture community. It goes well beyond that. And so, yeah, I'm excited about what my future might be and what message I can give.
It brings me back to something that you said earlier around when you went on your 3-month pilgrimage and you were visiting people that you that were part of your journey and wanted to connect with, and you ended up actually sort of giving back to them and sharing around your journey. It feels like that opened up a little bit of a, I'll say, teaching for, like, you know, through sharing your experience and what the wisdom that came through that space. Is that something that stayed with you and where you see yourself going?
Oh, most definitely. So without doubt, it was scary to go on a trip on my own. I've done a few of them now, But as you travel, I was traveling around the world on my own. And my family and friends, as you can imagine, were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing this. Are you sure you're even well enough?" I remember when I first started. Of course, I feel well, and I need to go and experience life. But the really beautiful teaching that I got, or the realization, was that the world is actually quite small, and that if we limit ourselves by what we know, then we're never going to discover what's possible. And so for me, if I had stayed working from my house, which I would probably be quite happy, going to the gym every morning, then going back to my lounge room to prepare designs that I'm presenting for different parts of the world, like New Zealand, for example. But that would still be a great life. But by going outside of that, by meeting other people, I got to hear other stories, experience other cultures, recognize that I can make friendships and make a life in other parts of the world, and that we don't need to be limited by the confines. But I think it's really, I remember sitting at the Gold Coast years before all of this, actually. And I was sitting, and at the Gold Coast, they have these. You guys are from the Gold Coast, aren't you? So, you know how they have those long sort of tunnels that fenced off where you walk down from the pathway down to get to the beach? And I was sitting looking down, and then beyond that, you see the gorgeous waterway and everything behind it. And I remember sitting there just looking and then thinking, if we only experience life from just our academic education, or just where we live at this particular point of time, or just the family we belong to, if we don't open ourselves to experience the wider version of things, then nothing will ever be the expanded experience that maybe is possible for us. And so even academia, even when I'm studying design, for example, everything that I've studied, if I just lived within the confines of that, then I wouldn't have the experiences that I have now with my clients and my projects, as an example. So it's really important, I think, for us, if we can, to possibly step outside of our comfort zones, because on the other side of that, stepping is the only fearful bit. Once you get in there, it's not fearful. It's actually becomes this exciting, incredible time that we can experience.
So true. It's so true. And just when you're saying that, I go back to the very start of the podcast, talking about the marriage. You know, it's like, even in being married, we don't have to. I mean, a lot of people have this visual of when you're married, it's like this, you know, and it's a certain way it's got to be. And it's like, no, you can be in partnership with somebody and live out of the comfort zone, and you can push yourselves, because then that allows the partner to do that as well, you know. But I think about, there's so many people out there that feel like they're stuck in this place of having to be.
Yeah, they probably do. Yeah. And I think, like, for many years, my marriage I felt was fabulous. In fact, I was really happy there. And I'm not an advocate for leaving your partner. I'm an advocate for more what you say. It's like, grow together, experience things together. And if you have come to a point where the two of you are no longer wanting the same things, then say goodbye in a really beautiful, respectful way, and go on and live your life. So I'm definitely an advocate for love, but also for experiencing all that's available, and not just putting on the limitations that everybody else has. Don't just do things because you think that's what you're meant to do, but do things because it comes from your heart. And if you're in a partnership, you need to agree together. You need to talk about that, I'm sure.
Have you attracted another partner in, Ros, since then?
I actually did attract another partner. And I think when I attracted that partner, I was at a really vulnerable point. I was separated from my husband. My hair's falling out. I was actually at one point even suicidal. So I was feeling, which surprised me to get to that point, but I feel like that experience as well has been a valuable one. Everything you go through. That particular partner partnership did not work. And it was, I found myself inside one of the scariest relationships that's possible. And at the time, I thought it represented everything that was opposite to my marriage. It was kind of what I thought was going to be this cool, amazing life. But what I did was I didn't read any red flags. And then because of my empathy and because of my strong need to be successful in a relationship, I thought I can't really, to be honest, I'm wanting to say fuck up. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
I didn't want to fuck this one off as well. I felt like a failure, to be honest. And so I wanted to keep doing everything possible to make this person happy. And yeah, it was nightmarish. And in fact, it was my experience with violence and a lot of verbal violence, which didn't really fully begin, I don't think, until we started living together. So, but I recognize now, and even though I would not want to go through that ever again, I recognize that I am grateful for that period, because it meant I had to go really, really deep in terms of why was I accepting behaviors that were not respectful? Why am I wanting to help somebody to the point that I'm not looking out for my own well-being, that I'm prepared to put up with anything just for the name of the success of a relationship to the outside world? Like, what the hell? Why would I do that? So, and I've addressed it again since then. So yes, it was a terrible period, and that's been over for quite some time. And I am sure in my new state that I will attract the right partner. But at the time, and all the time since then, I probably haven't felt like I was even the least bit interested. What I needed to do was actually tap into this self-care, self-love, self-awareness. And I think that's been really important. And in fact, not that long ago, I was actually having lunch with a friend, and she's a very successful businesswoman. And I started speaking about all the exciting things I'd like to do now. And then I got home and I thought, oh my goodness, why am I doing that? Why am I again saying I want to do all these things? And I recognized, gosh, I'm doing it again. I am trying to fit the bill of all, and yes, I could probably do every one of them and successfully. But what was the reason behind wanting to do so many things? And I think it was acceptance, for me to be accepted. And so now I realize if I accept myself, I get to do the project I want to do, the things that I want to do, and the people who are around me. And just so many amazing people have been stepping up and coming into my energy field, which is so lovely, just from getting to that point. And I feel like there are so many times when we can have certain behaviors play out, and it's not until we pull ourselves up and go, okay, I'm doing it again, and practicing and practicing and practicing, and until we get it, hopefully, partway right.
Now that process of checking in with self and asking, why did I behave in that situation like this? Or it's such a powerful pause moment, isn't it? And
yeah.
Ability to just like identify and actually not adding layers. It's continuing to take the layers off, isn't it? And giving yourself freedom.
And finding a balance. I think I will always be an empathetic person. I love being involved in philanthropy, and the joy I get from, which I personally get from seeing the little faces of the children that we're helping, and like the beauty of that. I will always want to feel that moment when a client realizes I heard them and I saw them and they love what I've just produced for them. Yes, of course, I'm going to love that. But we have to be careful that our empathy doesn't make us actually form victim, which is something my sister said to me recently. Your empathy can become to a point where you become the victim. And I think that had happened to me. So it's like, don't lose who we are. We don't have to move away from being empathetic and loving and kind. Of course not. we have to be sure there's a balance so that we become someone that's actually got strength within ourselves and we're not falling victim to somebody else's behavior.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Yes, very powerful words there.
I want to ask around where you're with your health as a foundation to, you know, how you're choosing to live now. You mentioned that you're looking, you know, you're choosing to go forward in different ways now.
I am. Yes, I am.
Would you mind sharing a little around that? Because I imagine that involves a lot of things as simple as diet as well as other.
It involves lots.
Yeah.
And so I have got a situation where my body is breaking down inside around the area that the original surgery was, and that's causing complications. And it would be easy, I guess, to take it all out and have a permanent stoma back. But I don't want to go down that path, and there's no cancer. So we've cleared that there's no cancer. I'm now being cancer-free for over 5 years. I'm feeling confident. It was really weird because in the hospital, I went straight back to Australia and they admitted me straight away. But in that hospital, when they were saying, we think the cancer's back, I wanted to say, I don't think it's there. I think it's something else. And of course, they found out that it was something else. It was this syndrome, and it was just how it appeared on the screens. However, I chose to walk away from that because I got this really strong intuitive feeling, do not rush this decision. And I started to listen. Now, when you're in the middle of, or when I've been in the middle of a really big situation with health, and a fairly major one, you tend to hear only parts of things. You don't fully listen. And so what I've done this time is gone back and listened and realized that I can deal with inflammation in certain ways. And so I'm dealing with the inflammation through diet. So I actually have a nutritionist that I'm working with. I've got the support of my beautiful GP, who's been the most incredible woman at helping me through everything. I've also got another fabulous specialist of hormones here. She's based in Jakarta, but they've become like this gorgeous team around me, helping me. And we've managed to now get the inflammation back to normal levels. But I'm not going to go forward with surgery straight away. I'm going to take my time, do some more healing, get stronger. And I don't know if it's possible to actually not require more surgery, but I will certainly try and get to a point where it will be less dramatic surgery and where I can get back into a normal life. I also intend to go to have stem cell treatment, and I'm chosen Colombia. And so I'm about to go on another adventure. So who knows? I went to Morocco last year, fell in love with it. And intend to go back on a regular basis. And who knows, I might fall in love with Colombia as well. I think I just love traveling to new parts. I've discovered I love exotic locations in big cities. And I just, my life is taking me on these journeys. Yeah, of course. You can all come. Actually, it would be really good to take people with me because I feel like it's quite a journey to take on your own. And but I've just decided I feel really comfortable, and I'm loving being on the. So I've discovered that because I was incorrectly diagnosed, or the syndrome was not recognized, I guess. I've been on the wrong diet and wrong medication for 5 years. Wow. So there's a lot of reversing, there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. But in addition to that, I'm also seeing all sorts of spiritual masters and Reiki healers and different people. I'm putting massage into my treatments, HBOT, the oxygen tank as well, going into the tanks and using that method, special lights, and a lot of meditation.
Well, isn't the lady from Eat, Love, Pray, the guy, guru in Bali? You probably need to track him down and let him do some.
Oh, I did. I have actually. I did go there once.
Oh, no way.
And yeah, I did go there once. He's since passed away.
Oh,
But I remind myself of the lady actually out of, um, oh my God, now I've just forgotten the movie. It's about a woman that goes to Tuscany, Under the Tuscan Sun.
I
Do you know
love
that? Yeah. And I remind myself of that.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, I want this new life and I want to have all these things.
Yeah.
And in fact, everything is falling into place, but it's in a different way or a different format to what I had expected. And in a way, it's even more magnificent than I imagined. But if what I had dreamt up was from the limitation of what I already knew, and now my life is different and expanded. And so I am leaving myself more open now to what's possible.
That's beautiful. Can you just share that
quote?
The communication and the creative? Because
yeah, sure.
that you're living that.
I feel like you just took the words out
I
of
did
my
not.
mouth. I was just about to say that. I think that quote that you spoke about at the function that you were at, that you spoke to last, is your life. I think that's your life. And we've found through this podcast and interviewing so many different women that communication is such a powerful way to expand our space. And I feel like with that communication that you gave has opened something up in your world that there's no kind of coming back from. It's like you've now
you've created that print, and it's like the footsteps that continue,
and it's just
to carry on.
reverberated out into the world, and these beautiful countries and people are opening up into that space for you to walk through and meet and be with, and
it's been really incredible. I think something that, and I agree 100% with you, because I'm even using that as the quote or the tagline in my new book, which is great. So I'm actually writing a theory at the moment, and very excited. I'll release that hopefully in the next 12 months, or sooner, depending on how quickly I can work, if I don't get too distracted by trips. But something that I think that has been really important for me is I am evolving, and I am not that person that I was when I married at 22. I'm not the person that walked away after 37 years of marriage. I am not the person that agreed to live with the man that was less than respectful to me. I'm not the person that got cancer. I am none of those people anymore. I am now me. I am. And it's really important for me to understand when I am meeting every single person to come to them consciously on that day, because every person that I meet is also not where they were when I saw them yesterday or the day before or 2 years before. Every single person evolves, and sometimes it's that little thing that triggers in your mind that sets off something in you that you understand profoundly. That is now my new direction. I'm now healed from that thing. I'm no longer held in that place of disrespect. And I'm coming from this beautiful, joyous place that I now call home.
I can't think of a better way to end than right there. My goodness, that was
maybe.
That was amazing. So beautiful.
I'm full of stories.
I love it. Great, wonderful, expansive stories.
And just so powerful in the way you communicate them too, Ros. Like, you've really embodied
Thank you.
in a way that carries so much feeling and so much connection, but yet you're not entangled in them. Beautiful. Yeah.
All I know is I love life, and I actually remember choosing life, and I chose courage over fear, and I'm choosing to live my life fully. And I feel like life chose me. And so it's the most delightful thing to be experiencing all the parts that this beautiful life is giving me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
We have one more question, like usually that we
sure.
ask. I feel like because you've shared that what you just shared then, as Joe said, reverberates out to everybody, and the joy of embodying that. But just to flip it a little bit, our last question usually is, how do you see the world, and what do you see next for us? Would you mind sharing
Oh,
around that?
okay. Well, what I see is miracles.
Oh,
So when I look anywhere, I see a miracle. But I don't just see what people think of traditionally as miracles. Every single thing that we are experiencing is a miracle of creativity. And so I think if people could open up their minds more to what their own personal gift is, then they would recognize the absolute beautiful contribution that they could have to life through their creativity, which will not only enhance their own lives, but the lives of other people. And it could be creating a wonderful mathematical equation that will help people in accounting. It could be how do we deal with AI and actually expressing ourselves as people with this new technology, which is, again, a miracle. Every single thing, like when you think about even my drink container here, how did this come about? It was a thought from somebody. They then created the shape. How did the product get made? That's been created by somebody. So every single thing, if we think about the roads, the electricity, every component of our lives, our clothing, all miracles of creativity. So we're surrounded by them. And I see the world, if people could recognize that more, as being a more beautiful, creative space where everyone could come together as one.
Wow, that's really beautiful. I agree totally. Tuning more into it. Love it. Yeah.
And
Really
it's
powerful.
Just the vision I have. That's how my mind thinks.
and I guess that's waking up, isn't it? Not taking things for granted or being complacent.
Yeah.
And the miracle that we live in.
Yeah. And I think so many people don't realize how special they are. And everybody has something different. So never judge yourself against another person, because it's who you are as a person that makes you part of the I am.
Oh, beautiful. Thank
Bless
you
you.
so much, Ros.
Thank you, darling.
So much.
Great to talk to you. Thank you for having me on. I really love it.
Oh, I can't wait to share you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our Girl Awakening podcast. We are also on YouTube as Girl Awakening. We'd love to see you there with comments on how our guests resonated with you or your own awakening. Please share the love with a like and subscribe while you're there. A blissful thank you to Ksenia Luki, the amazing artist behind our theme song. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.